Hey everyone, welcome to our small footprint. It is a chilly morning this morning. It was only 1 degrees outside when I got up and it was about 13 inside because the fire had gone out overnight. So I really need to get a video ahead so that I can try and not have to do these voiceovers and stuff first thing in the morning because it's just a little chilly. So we did some pear processing yesterday and we did some more work on the chicken pen and a few other bits and pieces. So I've got them for you to share for you and hope you enjoy, and I will see you again tomorrow. I have to really get into gear with all the fruit because if it's going to hit below freezing temperatures, then the fruit is going to freeze and that's going to be an issue. So I really need to get moving with that. Hopefully I can find the time to get it done today because I have some other stuff to get done as well. I've got some admin work and stuff to do, so we shall see. But I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching and I'll see you next time. We got some more work done on the chicken pen today. When I was in Brisbane, I managed to find a battery-operated staple gun that goes with all the rest of our Ryobi gear. So we have a whole bunch of Ryobi battery-operated gear, an impact driver, circular saw, a multi-tool, whippersnipper, vacuum cleaner, torch, all that sort of stuff, which is what we find works really well, that we can have a battery charging all the time, and whichever appliance we need we can use the battery for. We just have to buy a couple more batteries every now and again. So when I was at Bunnings, I had a quick look to see what they had, and they had these staple guns with 14mm staples, which should be fine for putting into treated pine posts, which is what our chicken pen is made out of. So I purchased this staple gun, which has made putting the Avery mesh up a 15-minute job instead of a many-hour job. Previously, with all the stuff that we've done, we've used the metal staples that you had to hammer in, and not only is it a lot of work to hammer them in, but it also shifts the poles around in the ground a lot because you're making so much impact on them. So having this staple gun has meant that there's less impact on the poles. We can use more of them because you can put them every second little bit of wire up the post, and it's just made it so much quicker to do, made the job much more pleasant. So we started the Avery wire. We did the first 30-meter roll. It went to almost all the way around the outside edge, which was great. We were being eaten by mosquitoes and we've run out of mosquito repellent, so we got the one roll done and then came back inside just to see how it went, but we're happy with how easy it's going to be to get them done using this tool compared to what we were expecting. So there's 90 centimeters of Avery wire above the metal, and then we will use some split pine post probably to create a topper to where the metal goes, and then we're going to run some bird netting around the trees above the pens as well, just to stop some predator birds from being able to easily get in. We're not going to be able to seal it off completely like we had the previous one because of the trees in the pen, but we will do something that will work and we'll figure it out as we go. I really need to get into all the fruit that we've got because the temperatures are starting to really drop overnight and we have nowhere to store them that isn't exposed. So we don't want them freezing and defrosting more like at all, because that's going to impact the texture of the fruit and the edibility of it. So I need to, over the next few days, get most of this fruit canned up and sorted. So today I started with some pears. So this giant box of red toned pears was only $5 and they're really nice. They're a nice firm fleshed pear, very sweet. So I decided that I would just do a batch in the canner of just straight pears to use however I decide to use them in the future. The kids can eat them straight out of the jar if that's what they want. We could have it over Dutch baby pancakes. We could have it in a crumble. I don't really mind. However it gets eaten, it will be fine. So I did a few different sizes. Some I did in like fine slices, some I did in quarters, and some I diced up into little pieces. So I just got as much as I could in each jar of those shapes to give it a go. And these are size 27 Fowler's jars, which are, gonna say 700 mils, 650 mils. I can't remember off the top of my head actually, but a bit bigger than a quart. A bit bigger than a pint, but not as big as a quart. They're quite a tall jar, which means I can't use them in the steam canner. They have to go into the water bath canner, which is a bit of a pity because it uses so much water, but that's fine. I just put a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid in each jar, and that is purely to help the pears maintain their bright colour. And then I put a tablespoon of sugar, sort of to counteract the citric acid, but also for colour as well. And then just topped them up with filtered water. So very simple, and just in the jars like that. I used my Phallus Vicola corer to take the cores out of them, which works really well. And I've put all the cores aside. I will juice them or something with them. Otherwise they'll just go to the chickens, who will really love it as well. So I'll do something with them anyway. They won't go to waste. I could do a pear vinegar or something maybe. I'll see. I'm not real sure yet. I just put them aside for the moment. So once I filled the jars, I can fill 8 jars. I can fit 8 jars in my buffalo canner. So I filled 8 jars full of pears. And once I had done that, I cleaned all the rims. So I use white vinegar on the rims of anything that it isn't going to impact what's in it. There's so much dust and dirt and everything that is around our place that it's really important for me to keep those rims clean when I'm canning, because those bits of dust and grease and that are going to stop it from sealing. So some people don't really like using vinegar, but I find it fairly important in our situation. So you need to use a lint-free cloth. I'm using microfiber here, and run it around the rims of the jars. Now with the Phallus Vicola jars, of course, they've got that little concave bit, which is where you put the rubber ring. So that's the bit that you're making sure to get with the vinegar. So I double and triple do it. So I clean the rims, and then I put the rubber rings on, and then I clean the rubber rings because my hands may be greasy, so I may have transferred some grease onto the rings. And then I actually run the vinegar around the inside of the stainless steel lids as well, only because they're being stored in containers in an outdoor kitchen, and again, dust. So I just find it easier to just double, triple do it before I can them. It saves fails on jars, so I find it worthwhile. Once I put all the lids on, so I've put the clips on as well to hold the lids down, which is the way the Fowler's jars work. I put the 8 jars into the canner and then filled it up with water to about 1 inch over the height of the jars. Once the water comes to a full rolling boil, then that's when you start your timer with the water bath canning for these, and I did 15 minutes at my altitude. So it's 10 minutes for under 1,000 feet and 15 minutes for between 1,000 and 3,000, I think it is, but I tend to do 15 minutes because we're at a slightly higher altitude here, so I always tend to err on the side of caution for that. After the 15 minutes, then turn the canner off and let them sit for 5 minutes before pulling them out. While all that was going on, I decided to make up some bentonite clay paste for Sonnet. Sonnet has some pretty severe eczema at the moment. Hers is mostly diet related, but we've removed nearly everything that causes it diet related. So at the moment, I think it's purely just the weather. It's cold and dry and moist one day, dry the next day, lots of wind, and she's just struggling a little bit. So I bought some bentonite clay at Costco, and I've just mixed it up into a paste, and it's just 1 part of the clay and 2 parts water, or two texture that you want. Depends on where you're putting it, I suppose. I made it a little thick here, and when I tried to put it on, I'm probably going to thin it out a little bit because I'm trying to cover a large area on her skin, whereas if you were using it as like a face mask, then this thick is probably perfectly fine. But I will probably thin this down a little bit for use for her, just to make things a little bit easier. And so you just mix it all together, and it can be stored in the fridge and pulled out whenever you need it. It's great for itchy skin, but also good for any sort of bites or stings or anything like that. It's got a little bit of a drawing property to it, so it can help with splinters or drawing toxins out. Like if you got stung by a bee, it could help draw the sting or the toxin out from that sort of thing. It's just a good use all. It's a bit like the salves that I make that are great for the kids. It's not going to hurt if they overuse them, so I let them use them as much as they want to help themselves feel comfortable. So on the skin, and you let it dry into sort of like a mask looking thing, and then wash it off. Washing it off isn't as important when you like spot using it on something on your hands. It'll just rub off, but for like doing the whole of Sonnet's back, it's definitely important to wash it off because it's going to dry and it's going to go all stiff. After I had done that, it was time to pull the jars out. So this is the jars as they came out of the canner. Sorry about the angle there. I cut off the tops of the jars a little bit. They look gorgeous. So that pink skin on the pears has sort of tinted the water, which I think is quite lovely. And the pears all look to have held their shape, and there hasn't been too much floating either. I tried to really pack them in there so that there wouldn't be too much excess space in the jar afterwards, because I wasn't heating them before filling the jars, and it all looks really good. So I'm happy with that. We'll probably open a jar tomorrow to taste them to make sure that they're all good before I do another batch, because I still have over half a box of pears there to go, and this is just a nice simple way to preserve them. So that was everything for today. A fairly easy day again, just taking it easy, and I will have to really get into things over the next couple of days. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you again tomorrow.